attempts to show a side of Black America that the media fails to present, thus invalidating the long-lived stereotypes.
Go down, Moses, and let my people go. Go down, Moses, and let my people go. Freedom. I can tell y'all a lot about freedom. Y'all don't know who I is, do you? I was Harriet Tubman. Some of the works I'm known for is a spy, a scout, and a nursemaid in the Civil War. But the greatest work I'm known for is a conductor on the Underground Railroad. Wasn't no real railroad, children. No, we had to say so the master would know. Well, the master was the white man that owned me. I was a slave. Yeah. Children, I was about 6 years old when I realized I was a slave. I was 6 years old when I realized that my mom and my dad and all my sisters and brothers were slaves. But it was also 6 years old when I realized I just got to be free. Because children, I knew that God didn't mean for one man to own another man. I just got to be free. Freedom, freedom, freedom for me, I pray. Freedom, freedom, freedom for me one day. I want to tell you a little bit about the Underground Railroad and what it was. It was just a number of houses that the slaves, the runaway slaves, would stop at, and they'd get food, and they'd sleep, and they'd drink, and then they'd go to the other house and the next house until they got to the first free state. And back then, the first free state back then was Pennsylvania. And when they got to Pennsylvania, they were free. That's all the Underground Railroad was. It was a code name for running away. The slaves were running. Well, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in Tidewater, Maryland, near Bucktown, Maryland, if you ever want to look on the map. Yeah, I was born in 1820, or was it 1821? Shucks, I don't know. I never learned how to read or write. No, It was a sin for a slave to know how to read or write. Because the master thought, well, a smart slave was a thinking slave, and a thinking slave was thinking about running away. Yeah. So it was 1820 or 1821. I grew up on a plantation. I'm gonna tell you what that's all about and what it looked like. My master, he had lots of land, but when you would walk up there on the land, you'd see this great big old house, and it was called the Big House. That's where the master and his family lived. When you would open the door and walk into the big house, and boy, you look at the beautiful wooden floors. Sometimes those floors were so shiny you could see your face on it. You look at the beautiful furniture, and you go on upstairs and go to the bedrooms, and you see the nice fluffy pillows and beautiful bedspreads and sheets. Go on downstairs and go behind the master's house, and that was the cookhouse, and that was where the slave women cooked the master's food. Way out behind the cookhouse was the barns and the stables. And way on out from the barns and stables, it was the slave quarters. That's where I lived. The slave quarters was a number of one-room shacks just close together. Each family got a shack, and it didn't matter how big your family was. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You each family got one shack. You'd open up the door and you'd look down at the floor, and boys wasn't like masses. It was packed dirt. You look over in one corner, and on one wall, and you'd see a fireplace, and that was our heat, our light. It's where we cook our food. You look over there in another corner there, and you see a big hole, and we call that the potato hole. And we would pick the potatoes, and we could put the potatoes in the hole to keep them cool so we could eat off it all winter long. You look over in another corner and you see some old blankets and some old rags, and well, that was our bed. Sure, that may not sound like much to you, but it was home to me. That's all I knew. I want to tell you about my daddy. His name was Ben. My daddy was the smartest man that ever lived. He was. The overseer would come down. Well, no, the overseer was another white man that the master would put over us. He hired him to come and make sure that the slaves wouldn't run away. But the overseer would come down and he would say, Ben, we know you're smart now. What's the weather going to be like today? Now, Daddy, he licked his finger, put it up in the air, and he started to tell him what the day was going to be like, and he was right. I told him my dad was smart. He'd take me out into the woods, and he said, now, Hep, I'm going to teach you how to survive in the woods. He taught me the berries that was good for eating and the ones that were poisonous. He showed me plants that were good for healing. He taught me how to walk so quietly through the woods where I wouldn't rustle a leaf or disturb a twig. He said, now, Hep, if you're ever out in the woods and you're lost, look up in the sky and find the North Star. It's steady. It'll lead to wherever you need to go. But if you ever come out and it's nighttime and you can't see the stars, feel along the side of the tree, and wherever the moss is the thickest, that's leading you to the north. Children, I didn't know then that my old Happy, he was teaching me how to survive in the woods so that I could run away to freedom. I didn't know it then, but later on, I used everything that my own papa showed me. Yeah. My papa taught me how to work in the fields. He was a good field hand. He showed me how to become a good field hand, and he was very strong. And now my mama, her name was Rick. She taught me how to cook and sew and to do all those domestic things because she wanted me to work up in the big house. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to work out in God's green earth where it was open and beautiful, and I was strong and I was able to do it. So that's why I worked in the fields outside, right alongside my own daddy. I want to tell you all one reason for slavery. The master bought the slaves for the slaves to tend to his crops. And that's what we would be doing out in the fields. We'd be tending to the crops. The slaves would plant the crops, and they would tend to the crops, and they would harvest the crops. Well, that was life for me. And I did that for a long time. You know, one day I was working in the field, right alongside the road there, and close to the road, and this white woman came by. She was in a carriage and buggy, and she had on a faded blue bonnet. And she spoke to me and started talking to me, and I thought, now, why is this white woman talking to a slave? Why is she being nice to me? See, children, you got to understand, not everybody believed in slavery. And I come to find out later, she was one of those people that did not believe in slavery, but she didn't say anything. She just befriended me, and I started to trust her because I just felt in my heart, this woman really means what she's saying. She really is my friend. Not long after me meeting her, us developing a relationship, my master died, and a new master came. That new master wanted to sell me. He wanted to sell me off into the chain gang. And children, you don't want to be a part of the chain gang. Oh no. When you were in the chain gang, you work from sun up to sundown. If you ever failed because you were sick or tired, they beat you till you get up, or they beat you till you die. And I said, oh no, I can't do that. That same ringing that I had in my heart when I was 6 years old, I've got to be free. It started ringing in my ears, and I said, tonight is the time I've got to run away. Well, I had to let somebody know that I was running away, and I couldn't tell my mom and dad because, I was the favorite child, and they wouldn't hear of it. So I had to tell my sister. Now, I got to tell y'all, the slaves sang about everything. They sang when they were happy. They sang when they were sad. They sang when the master died or when the new master was born. They sang about everything. They said that the plantations were miles apart, but when when the slaves started singing, they started singing back and forth, and you could hear it. I mean, those rich voices going from plantation to plantation, and they would be communicating. Well, I thought I'd sing a song, and my sister was working up in the cookhouse. I went up near a tree that was near the cookhouse, and I started singing. Going on to glory land, I'm gonna cross that river Jordan. Going on to glory land, I'm gonna cross that river Jordan. I didn't have to say anything else. I knew she knew what I was talking about. I waited till it was dark and everybody went to sleep. And I packed a little bit of food in my little knapsack there, and I started out. Now you would think that I would use everything on that first trip that my daddy taught me, but I didn't, Sheila. No, I went straight to that white woman's house. And she had told me one time when we was talking, she said, Harriet, if you ever need any help, you know where to find me. You know, at first I didn't know what she was talking about. But she kept saying it. Harriet, if you ever need any help, you know where to find me. Well, I knew where she lived. And I went to her house. Well, this was my first time running away. And I was nervous, and I thought, can I trust this white woman? I don't know. I stood there for a long time outside, and I could hear, it was so quiet, I could hear the dogs barking, and it was kind of scary, but I went up to the door finally, and I knocked. Nobody answered. And I knocked again. And she opened up the door. And she said, hey, get on in here, girl. I've been waiting for you. Get on in here. And we got in there, and she sat me down at the table, and she started talking to me. And she started telling me the next house I needed to go to, and the next house I needed to go to, and the next house I needed to go to. And like I said, that is what the Underground Railroad was. Going from house to house. Those people who believed that slavery was wrong, they were hiding the slaves so that the slaves could get to freedom. Some of the people that were a part of the Underground Railroad and owned those homes were Quakers. There were other black free people. There were other white people, like I said, who did not believe in slavery. Those are the ones that the Underground was made up of. Those were the ones that owned those homes. Well, I finally got to freedom. Like I said, it was Pennsylvania back then, and I just started shouting and praising God. God, I'm finally free. That ringing that I had in my heart ever since I was 6 years old, I've got to be free. I'm finally free. I got settled in, but you know, after a couple of days, I was almost sad. I know I'm free. I'm not a slave anymore. I got to thinking, you know what, God? I know you didn't mean for my mama to be a slave, or my daddy to be a slave, or none of my sisters. I got to go back. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know when I was going to do it. But I got to tell y'all something. I put my trust in God. There were times he would give me dreams and visions, and he'd give me directions as to how to go and get back into the plantations and bring the slaves out. I mean, I would be right under the noses of the overseers or the people that were looking for the runaway slaves. Right under their noses. They wouldn't even see me. But I followed the direction that God gave me. He'd give me visions of the day or dreams at night, and I followed it. And I trusted him. I didn't have anybody else to trust, because nobody else knew what he knows, but only he knows. And he let me know. They tell me that I went back 19 times, and I freed over 300 slaves. Harriet Tubman, I'm the conductor on the Underground Railroad. My train never went off the track, and I never lost a passenger. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt. Go down, Moses, and let my people go.